Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the road safety webinar entitled Perspectives on Road Safety in Trinidad and Tobago. My name is Dr. Trevor Townsend. I'm the head of the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, and senior lecturer in traffic and transportation. And it's a pleasure to have you with us this morning on this very interesting webinar. We have with us a group of speakers who are well placed, well poised to articulate this subject. We're going to be hearing different perspectives on road safety, but all those perspectives have one thing in common. These are people who desire very strongly to ensure that we continue to reduce the level of death and injury and accidents in our roadways. So they're coming from different perspectives, some from engineering, some from the public concerns, some from enforcement, some from accident analysis, but all geared towards that common theme. So that, as I said, we're running late. I have to apologize. We had some technical difficulties, but we are on track. So we advise you that if you have any questions, and I'm sure you will, there's a chat box. You can just post them in the chat box and we'll get to them during the session as soon as we can. So without further ado, I'm going to invite our first speaker. Our first speaker is a young man who has been really working very hard to improve the way in which traffic is organized on our roads. He is Mr. Danley Piggott. He is from the Traffic Management Branch of the Ministry of Works and Transport. He's a traffic engineer there. And he's going to speak about then and now, the Ministry of Works and Transport road safety journey. So that I'm going to ask Danley to open his video, open his mic, and take it away.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Danley Piggott. I'm here representing Ministry of Works and Transport. First, I would like to thank the University of the West Indies for opening up this forum on the perspective on road safety in Trinidad and Tobago. It is much needed.
Danley, go to full screen for your slides. In your slideshow. And you may want to turn off your video. So just a little technical problem there, folks. Just bear with us for a couple of minutes while we try to get Danley back up and running.
Dr. Townsend, I believe we've lost Mr. Piggott from on the call. He may be trying to join us back.
Trying to join us back? Okay. Well, we can, what I'll do, I think Sergeant, the next speaker is going to be Sergeant Batson. So Brent, if you are ready to go, we're going to bring you earlier, and then we can always bring Danley back once he gets into, back online. So Brent, are you ready and able to start sharing?
All right, let's see what's going on here. Is your audio coming on okay?
Audio is fine, so you can start to share your screen.
All right. How's it looking so far? Everybody seeing the screen?
Looking good.
Yeah, okay. So you want me to push ahead? You say the word, Professor.
Let me just introduce somebody who is
Sure.
no stranger to us in terms of his efforts to really bring the police service into the modern world in road traffic enforcement with some significant success. Here is Sergeant Brent Batson.
All right, I'm just waiting for this helicopter to finish passing over here. And yeah, so I would like to thank, of course, Professor and Yui for inviting us to be part of this. Well, for one, it's momentous in the sense that of bringing that topic of road safety back onto not just the transportation agenda, but our partnership with the tertiary institutions. So I'm Sergeant Brent Batson. I'm actually with the Traffic and Highway Patrol unit, but I'm a consultant with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service with regards to the Strategic Road Safety Project. And my topic today is road traffic enforcement efforts towards road casualty reduction in Trinidad and Tobago. So I'll give you a little history and background in the slide presentation as well. And, you know, so everybody can see how we were able to get to where we are and with some of these successes. And we'll be available for questions and suggestions even afterwards. Yeah. So again, what I always say here when we started off this, now my background, I have a master's degree in forensic psychology and criminal investigation. And when you know, we started this journey in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the ultimate goal is to actually change that social norm. And what we say is the social norm are the informal rules that govern behavior in groups and societies. And again, I want everybody to understand where this is coming from. Poor driving practices, poor enforcement practices, lack of adequate and structured policies, procedures, even tools and equipment to help coerce and change societal behavior, especially as it came to the driving behavior and general road user behavior in Trinidad and Tobago. There was no actually set policy to try and tackle this issue. And even as our road networks became, I would have to say, clogged exponentially with more and more motor vehicles, you'd find that the issues of trying to address competency, driver competency, and even consequential sanctions for unsafe or not complying with the rules weren't really keeping pace with Trinidad and Tobago's economic development. And but my background is actually also health and safety, because I actually came from a used to work with a safety training company, and it was interesting to see the multinationals like BP and Shell, well, BG at the time, and all these major oil and gas companies. They have very powerful health and safety and road transport guidelines to help minimize risk. And really and truly to try and migrate that on a national platform was definitely dynamic, but it was something that had to be tackled though, once you got the right support. So those you may be familiar with the WHO's report on road safety in Latin America and the Caribbean. You can still see they're almost from 2007, and this is available online, and some of the older data. And we actually got to, first of all, the challenge was we're categorized as a high income country due to our GDP. And I want you all to understand what is that, those who are not too sure, that means we were categorized with Emirates and all these Saudi Arabian countries, even the US, because of our GDP per capita. And as a result of that, we couldn't access, when we tried to get funds for road safety, for educational platforms and stuff, we were denied, all right, denied, because really and truly the funding has to go to low income countries. But we started to tackle the different areas, and so all of which I'll go through, which allows us to see the benefit. So just to jump to where we are right now, so everybody could see that nice gradual decrease in road traffic accident fatalities, as well as the fatal road traffic accidents themselves, from 2011 all the way down to 2020. And as you could see there in last year, we closed off with 88 fatal road traffic accidents in the red graph, the red line, and 96 fatalities. And again, it was historical. We went back to traffic and highway patrol branch records, which actually were very meticulous going back. The last time we saw that number was 1957. And so if you compare, of course, the level of motorization to then, that's pretty significant. So it's trends in the right direction compared to where we were going, which was just continuously upward. And definitely it meant certain interventions that we put into place started to work. Here, what we try to do is actually look at it with some of the stuff that actually happened. So for example, the Decade of Action for Road Safety, the UN Decade of Action was endorsed by the TTPS. Cable barriers started to go down in some of the areas, police surveillance bays. Those you're not familiar, those police surveillance bays that cut down the center of the highway, also known as, I think it's highway emergency openings, they helped a lot in the response. So that post-collision response of fire services, EMS, and of course police to respond to a crash scene. That cut down the time. Last time they told us it took about 16 minutes to respond to a crash, especially in the Freeport area. That cut it down to around 4 to 6 minutes. And so it was a major development. We had fixed penalty notices devices. The iRoad Safe campaign also started to come into place. We had in 2016, the speed guns, the first LiDAR speed guns started to be utilized. We had the motorcycles and the road policing task force, a U-turn demerit point system. So we started to see, like I said, how some of these interventions started to bear fruit, you know. This is just from 2020, some of the road user deaths, but we just compiled recently, where we started to see that change. Usually drivers were around 42%, it's dropped to 38, passengers, which was as high as 35%, down to 28%, and pedestrians also started to reduce as well. So in all classes, motorcyclists, interestingly, and bicyclists also saw significant reductions. Main contributing factors for fatal road traffic crashes. I know Mr. Cupid here, and this is in 2019. What we use to help do this is look at the accident coding from the fatal traffic crashes from the investigators, from the data that we have. And we were able to come up with this chart to kind of look at a guide towards causation. And again, you'll see alcohol and speeding, the two major factors without a doubt. I always tell everybody, you know, speeding determines outcome, you know, it determines whether or not you live or die. It determines if other people live or die. And so it's really a function of the outcome. So speed management is definitely a top area. And of course, DUI interventions. Across the world, the statistics are the same as well. But what was interesting is the seatbelt compliance. We really have to work on that because we started to look at some worrying statistics, which I'll show you. So as everybody's aware, and I know Arrival Live, I'm not gonna duplicate what some of the other presenters are gonna do, but the Decade of Action for Road Safety, that was really the platform to launch some of these road casualty reduction initiatives in Trinidad and Tobago, and in fact, all member states across the world, UN member states. And it really had a comprehensive look. So the TTPS actually partnered with one of the major stakeholders to launch it. Now, why sometimes people forget that the whole purpose of police service is public safety. Yes, it's enforcement, but its goal has to be injury and harm prevention. I always say response is the wrong side of the problem. As much as we invest in prevention, it's going to be win-win from everybody. So we partnered. We had Commissioner Dwayne Gibbs at the time, and we got the full support of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, becoming one of the lead stakeholders to push the Decade of Action for Road Safety. And I want everyone to understand at that time, even there was still no comprehensive guideline or national state policy on addressing the issue of reducing road harm. The decade of action focused on these 5 main pillars: road safety management in pillar number 1, pillar 2, safer roads and mobility, safer vehicles being pillar 3, 4, safer roads, road users, sorry, and pillar 5, post-crash response. And the TTPS really fell into 4 of those pillars. Not so much safer vehicles, because under the UN guidelines, the safer vehicles really referred to the vehicle standards, the actual importation standards with regards to crash test rating, and so something that we didn't have, or we didn't really fall into that category for the level of enforcement itself. Something the Motor Vehicle Road Traffic Act enforcement really was supposed to be go into the direction of the licensing department. So we had to play catch up into that role and responsibility. There was no real budget for active road safety education, no roadway safety auditing to try and look at, crash or collision hotspot mapping and these kind of issues to identify risk. As I mentioned before, the exponential increase in motor vehicle population, it left law enforcement agencies without adequate resources for road policing in a lot of cases. Eventually, it placed the entire enforcement onto the shoulders of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. So I want everybody to know we were very unique in the Caribbean to actually have the licensing authority as its own MVRT enforcement unit. And that really would have been to allow the TTPS to focus more on anti-crime efforts. But we ended up taking over the entire ambit. So we had to do it. What changed though was that with the TTPS, we now had dedicated national policing strategic goals and operational target planning to go with it. So with the agenda for change, improving roadway safety now became a major strategic pillar in order for us to target. So whether it's decreasing crime in certain areas, and the resources could be dedicated towards it. Now we have another pillar, improve roadway safety. And I want everybody to understand what that means is that from a police hierarchy standpoint, is that it made all commanders now responsible to enact or to take action now to achieve this national policing goal, which of course the commissioner is ultimately responsible for achieving. So it set metrics and targets for the TTPS now to try and focus on. We had, for example, it was considered strategic goal number 2, improve police visibility, accessibility, and enforcement, reduce fatal and serious road traffic accidents, enhance safety using ICT, reduce number of police vehicle collisions, expand our iRoad Safe educational campaign, enhance safety in tourist sites and major events, again, with regards to just where groupings of people or occurrences would occur to deter behaviors. And that ultimate goal was to improve traffic control and safety on the roadways in other public places. So it's the first time, like I said, we started to now get some more metrics involved, set some goals, set out the objectives, and then of course now have a way to look at where the shortfalls are, and to in some cases hold certain commanders with that responsibility. We also created a roadway safety strategic plan with the TTPS strategic road safety project. We split it into 2 areas. One was national and the other one was internal. All right, the intervention areas on the national level, just to go through quickly, was, for example, enforcement of the MVRT, education of the Road Traffic Act for the public and so forth, emergency response, collision response and investigation, and of course, increased collaboration in regards to interagency interoperability building, regards to fire services response, but not only that, even working closer to the corporations and so forth. For the developmental areas, TTPS operations and road policing, to look at how we start to develop and increase that. Patrol strategies, we started to use more patrol, I should say data-driven directive patrols, where the crashes were occurring through good good collision analysis, looking at where the hotspots were occurring in regards to the collisions. formation of a TTPS road safety unit, which was eventually evolved into the roadway surveillance unit.
Brent, turn off your video, Brent. You probably have a bandwidth problem and you have about 4 minutes to wrap up. But turn off your video so we can hear you. We've lost your audio. You need to unmute, Sergeant. You need to unmute. You need to unmute your mic. All right, well, we seem to have lost Sergeant Batson. You back with us? I see your mic open. Welcome back, Sergeant Batson.
Great, I didn't know where I went when I left.
I was just saying that you had about 3 minutes to wrap up, but I suspect you will continue through your presentation. So we just lost We just lost your last couple of slides. So
okay.
Give us a wrap up and we'll have some more time to discuss. We lost you when you were talking about that.
Sure, yeah. So let me go back to the share screen. You guys hear me?
We're hearing you loud and clear. We're not seeing the screen.
All right, let me click back on the share screen there.
Just the last couple of slides.
See where we are with that. You can let me know when the screen comes back up.
Right, it's back up. And
so let me, since I have 3 minutes again,
right.
we focused a lot.
I'll you. Okay.
Yeah, all right, great. So we are focused a lot on building capacity. The critical traffic enforcement tools were trained and motivated officers, breathalyzers, speed enforcement devices, high visibility road policing, and publication of prosecution such as DUI convictions, because we're all trying to change behaviors. We had very good procurement and equipment selection for a lot of the equipment that we have to use international best practice. And so utilizing and leveraging a lot of the technology. So for example, just as an example of how quickly our speed enforcement capacity was increased, starting the DUI task force and how it deploys to try and target specific alcohol impaired driving together with a national campaign. And again, the DUI arrests skyrocketed when we actually conceptualized the DUI task force itself and then started to spread into divisional units. And without fear or favor, we continue to apply the law. Those who knew the judge was charged. We had a minister of national security charged, well, a former minister of national security. We have strict calibration and quality assurance procedures. And we still try to combine it with regards to behavior changes by doing our own enforcement surveys that are available to the public. High visibility road policing, again, publication of fines, and just again, utilizing GPS and stuff for more to ensure that the patrols are where they're supposed to be. And I'm just clicking through to give everybody an idea of how we try to tie education and outreach, such as voluntary DUI prevention areas, partnering with Arrival Life to spread into schools. And Act 9 of 2017, again, it really did usher in the mobile enforcement technology, such as the ticketing devices, and allows us to quickly access our risk behavior. So for example, just from the system now, we could quickly check which are the top offenses and behaviors presenting breaches by errant motorists. And we could quickly pull that rather than from that system. Also, just quickly beforehand, this is the idea of what the system allows. Through the Ministry Works app, we can quickly check. This is a real person. I want you to understand, we just changed the name. But we can go in now. You could go in actually now if you was hiring a driver, see how much points they have, and actually get a history of all their offenses. So you actually could know the type of person you're getting. Of course, the increased motorcycle section was able to spread our road policing capacity. We started a road policing task force, which started to make interventions on kidnap, into the crime areas as well. And it's what we try to do to save lives and keep families together. So we're going to red light and spot speed cameras, strengthening local government safety programs, traffic incident management, and goal is to improve crash investigator capacity. So it'll be interesting to hear what Mr. Cupid has to say as well. So thanks. I don't know if everybody's still there.
Yes, we are. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Adam Batson. It was fascinating. Wish we didn't have that problem with the technology, but we're going to get a chance
sure?
to ask you some questions at the end. I'm
Sure.
going to move right now, so you can stop sharing the screen. I'm going to move right now into Mr. Pigott is back with us, up and ready to go, so that Mr. Pigott, you can unmute and start to share your screen. And don't forget to put it into full screen mode as opposed to preview mode.
Yes. Hi, good morning, everyone. I humbly apologize for what took place earlier. But first, I would like to thank University of the West Indies for hosting such a program. Road safety is everyone's business. It's not Ministry of Works business, Arrive Alive, and Trinidad and Tobago Police Service business alone. It's each and every one. And we love that we are partnering or collaborating with the University of the West Indies and sharing the information, sharing what's taking place in the country from Ministry of Works side. And I look forward to getting all the necessary questions, and so that we can all be fulfilled at the end of the session. So my presentation today is to give you a synopsis of our national road safety efforts in Trinidad and Tobago. As Brent highlighted earlier, this journey started in 2011, where the UN Decade of Action, Trinidad and Tobago had signed on to that. We all know the challenges that we face in Trinidad and Tobago, where there are significant increases in private motor vehicle usage. As you can see in the photo there, this is what we experience day to day. We have a serious challenge between vehicular ownership and the road infrastructure and road capacities. To go a little bit further, we have heavy vehicle densities, and this will result into a lot of vehicular conflicts. This graph shows you of the successes, I will say, Trinidad and Tobago have been making towards the reduction of fatal road traffic accidents and fatalities for the last 10 years. As you can see, from 2011 to 2020, we have been declining. From the information that we have, we are one of the few English-speaking Caribbean islands that actually are going towards this direction. The UN Decade of Action actually warns countries across the world to reduce road fatalities by 50% by 2020. And one thing I must say, Trinidad and Tobago has been going in the right direction. For those of you who may not know, there were 5 pillars with the UN's resolution: road safety management, safer roads and mobility, safer vehicles, safer road users, and post-crash response. Some of the accomplishments from 2011 to 2020 that we've made. In 2011, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, we had established a National Road Safety Council as the lead agency for road traffic safety. This council had the key responsibility of developing policy and coordination, coordinating the agencies and multi-sector stakeholders with a shared goal for reducing road-related incidents. And under Pillar 2, which is safer roads and mobility, some of the accomplishment, the government had invested approximately $350 million towards road safety related projects. Some of these projects included pedestrian bridges, traffic signals, police bays, uninterrupted power supplies for our traffic signals, barrier systems, pavement markings, and road rehabilitation programs. Safer vehicles under Pillar 3, some of our accomplishments are, we had a reduction of the age of importation of foreign use vehicles and enforcement of vehicle testing and regulations. Going further, Pillar 4 for safer road users. We had public education awareness, a lot of public education exercises from our communications unit in the Ministry of Works and Transport. And 2011, we had seatbelts and child booster seats legislation that came in place to change the culture of our road users. Prohibition of the mobile devices while driving, so the use of mobile phones, speed measuring devices in 2015. Then we had Driving Under the Influence Act. And 2017, we had the demerit point system, red light enforcement, and the new fixed penalty system. And in 2020, the spot speed camera enforcement system. These are some of the legislative agendas that we had that are targeted towards improving road users. Okay. Yes. Post-crash response. We had the expansion of our highways patrol fleet, expansion of a victim support unit for the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, use of improved chemicals and chemical materials to clean the roadway after fuel spills, purchase of additional fire service equipment, for example, the Jaw of Life. And then we had the government of Trinidad and Tobago had increased the fleet of ambulances that are out there to respond to accidents. In summary, how we believe we performed with respect to the various pillars, I think the lead council did not operate as expected. So we need some more support there. Pillar 2, I think significant investments were made towards the engineering aspect of road safety. However, more can still be done. There could be some improvements there. Pillar 3, not enough was done. And just to remind those, Pillar 3 is safer vehicles. So not enough was done, but it's still a work in progress. All right. Pillar 4, we had that's respect to safer road users. Strong legislative improvements were made throughout the years, as you can see. And I think many of us are aware of these legislative improvements that we have put in place. And Pillar 4, I think we have little direct control over this because it's outside of the ministry's mandate. However, there are little efforts towards accident recovery and those things. So this is an area that we think that we need to really strengthen on. I think Pillar 1 and Pillar 5, great effort needs to be made in with those. On the road 2020 to 2030, the ministry, we've developed our road safety plan. We came together, we brought the different arms, we brought people from Ministry of Health, obviously the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, Ministry of Finance. We brought a team together, and that team came together to develop a road safety plan that was actually recently approved by Cabinet. The purpose of this was to Ministry of Works and Transport. We recognize the importance of developing a national road safety policy, strategic objectives, and a work plan with the intent of the ministry to effectively manage road safety issues as a priority. This policy and plan will be that foundation upon which all stakeholder agencies can use to guide their activities towards the reduction of serious fatal road traffic collisions. Our vision is to create a safe, efficient, intelligent road transportation system based upon the safe systems approach to road safety, harmony on nation roadways amongst all road users, and reduce risk through education, engineering, and enforcement. Right? So Pillar 1, we're going to still try to maintain some of the pillars from 2020 to 2030 and see where we could strengthen, seeing that that was the basis and the foundation of where we started, to reconstitute the lead agencies and some of the committees on the road safety involving partners from a range of sectors. This, as I stated earlier, was also approved by Cabinet recently, late last year, where we're going to set back up a road safety council, right? And medium term, we will look at establishing a dedicated team, possibly through the formation of a road safety unit, to champion the vision of road safety. This approach was also approved by Cabinet. right? And establish the necessary financial mechanism to ensure the dedicated funds are appropriated to treat with road safety on a sustainable basis. And long-term, with everything that we do, we want to continue monitor and evaluate our efforts so that we could make the necessary improvements. Pillar 2, which is safer roads and mobility, we are engaging to conduct international transportation plan, conduct a nationwide road safety audit program, graduated fixed penalty demerit points for speeds, red light enforcement, spot speeds enforcement cameras, and revision of the highways code. Medium term, the National Road Safety Plan is not a short term only, so it falls into the medium term as well. And extensive installation of barrier systems throughout the country, significant road development upgrades. So from the nationwide road safety audit program, numerous projects geared towards improving the safety of our roadways will come out of that. And in the medium term, yes, it will require a lot of investment. But in the medium term, we'll have significant road development projects, not just building roads, but putting all the necessary traffic control devices and safety devices on our roadways to get it to that A standard roadway that we can accept, right? And then the long term, so upgrades to specific routes to enhance the road safety, which is coming out of that same road safety audit program. Safer vehicles, right? As you already know that the government already had started into the reduction again of the age of imported vehicles. So now we are down to 2 years. This has significantly assisted with respect to the road fatality figures, because even though some of our motorists get into accidents because we are because of the technologies that are involved with newer vehicles, there's greater protection to the driver and passengers. So that is also part of the success by us driving newer vehicles and vehicles that are up to standard with respect to safety, right? The medium term, we have the improvement of vehicle testing regulations through our licensing department, and research and development. That is something that is always needed in every pillar, I would say. We must have a lot of research and development taking place so we know where we're going and know where we would like to be. Standards and procedures for freight vehicles, we want to take that into greater consideration because as we are aware, a lot of heavy vehicles which traverse the roadway. We know Trinidad and Tobago is a manufacturing nation. As such, we have a lot of heavy vehicles on the roadway, and we need to regulate the uses of those and have proper standards and procedures for freight vehicles throughout the country. And a permitting system for vehicle modification. We know a lot of people purchase their vehicles and they modify them. And sometimes with the modification of these vehicles, it reduces the safety of those vehicles on the roadway. So we want to have a proper permitting system for those things. And again, in the long term, we'll be continuously monitoring and evaluating. Safer road users, right? In the short term, mandatory seat belts for all passengers. There are some jurisdictions across the world where every seat that you are in a vehicle, you have to wear a seat belt. Right now in Trinidad and Tobago and in more third world nations and especially within our region, seat belts are only required in the front seats. As we passed that law earlier in 2015, I believe, we want to, 2011 or so, to ensure that every passenger in the vehicle is protected via seatbelt. We want to update laws on the tint, and you know that is right before us here today. Improving communicating to the public, road safety education. So our communications unit, as you saw, it already has started with the U-turn system. Extensive investments were made with public information with respect to road safety. U-turn was that platform that the ministry used to spread the information out there and get road safety into the minds of each and every citizen out here. We want to develop a road safety educational framework, enhance new fixed penalty system, the installation of red light and spot speed camera systems, disable accessible parking systems, better regulated public transportation industry, and also parking meters. because there is a road safety aspect with the implementation of parking meters in San Fernando and Port of Spain. Medium term, revision of the highway code, graduated driver's license system, and protection of our vulnerable road users, cyclists, and also pedestrians, which I left out here. And once again, in the long term, we'll be continuing monitoring and evaluating all the legislative agendas to enhance road safety. So I want to touch on U-turn, the impact of U-turn system. The previous presenter, Mr. Batson, touched on it. And what we noticed that seat belts, I am very shocked of these results. I mean, I know there was a point in time where police used to state that it was very difficult to find motorists and passengers not using their seat belts. However, I believe, this is just my opinion, with the increase in the patrols of cycling, the motorcyclists, I should say, maybe we are seeing better enforcement with the use of, with motorists not utilizing their seat belts and the use of mobile devices, which those two would have been probably difficult to enforce, but because of the addition of motorcyclists in the patrols for TTPS, that could probably assist there. We have 8,000 plus breach of traffic sign violations. Number of motorists exceeding the speed limit 10 to 20 kilometers per hour, 5,000 plus. The use of priority bus route, that's up there is the top 4 notice tickets that were issued with the U-turn system. Well, mobile phones, and then you have vehicles with a lot of defective fittings. If you notice with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the top 5 out of the 6 categories that I highlighted here, most of them, all of them are driver behavior issues. The only one, vehicle with defective fittings, that's more on the safer vehicle aspect. So we've invested a lot in infrastructure. We've invested a lot in push-cash response and all of those things. But what we realize, we really need to target the citizens or the driving population so that they can understand is they themselves are the ones that are causing some of the problems with the road carnage on the roadways, and they need to change their behaviors in order to reduce that much further. Hence the reason why we have the demerit point system, which is targeting your behavior on the roadway. And as a result of the demerit point system, we've discovered that so far 120 permits were disqualified. 1,300 are pending disqualification, right? Because they have to go through a due process. Then we have 13,258 warnings took place. So you hear many people are complaining that the police are only issuing tickets, they're not giving warnings. That is not so. 13,258 warnings took place since the demerit point system is in effect. And thus far, we had 67,000 plus fixed penalty notices issued. All right, and we go back to the push-cash response. We want to improve in the short term the first responder training, hazardous material, hybrid vehicles. They need proper training for that. The fire service informed us that it is not as simple when a hybrid vehicle, even though it's a good vehicle, it helps with our fuel, it is a greener technology. But when a hybrid vehicle gets into accident, it has to be treated differently from another vehicle because of the battery in a hybrid vehicle. So a lot of training needs to take place with respect to the first responders. So first responder manuals on dealing with incidents. We wanted to have traffic incident management training, development of highways emergency response unit. So we have a unit on the roadways, just roving on the roadways, and they will be demarcated by certain boundaries so that they can respond quicker in the event of a serious accident, so that you could get them to healthcare much faster, right? Medium term, we could use use of ITS solutions for incident management and accident recovery training, as Mr. Batson highlighted earlier. And in order for this to happen, we must have coordination out of all the agencies that are out there. Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Fire Service, you have ODPM, we have the lobbyist groups such as Arrive Alive, private sector, Obviously, the University of the West Indies, what we are doing here today is also part of the coordination efforts of reducing the road carnage on the roadway. That's it for my presentation today. I really hope that the information was worthwhile to all who are listening. So I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Adande, for that presentation. You really gave us a very quick run through of all the elements of the response of the government and the ministry in terms of improving road safety. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions for you. Participants are reminded to post your questions in the chat because we are going to be having some discussion on questions a little later on. One question I wanted to ask you, Adande, before we move on to the next presenter. In the context of the plans, and those plans sound really good, does the ministry have the human resource to implement, to carry forward that road safety agenda as articulated there?
Well, that is part of, because the cabinet approved it and we are looking to operationalize it, and we know that we have to enhance the unit, the road safety unit, so we'll have to get the necessary skill sets accordingly to do that. So at present, we know, but it's something that we will have to definitely enhance.
All right, and we can talk a little bit about how we can have to move that agenda forward in an era where we are hearing freeze on hiring in the public service and all those kind of things. All right, I want to move on now. As I said, continue to post your questions and comments in the chat. I see a number of things coming in, and that's great. We are going to have a plenary session at the end, but let's move right now into our third presenter, who is one of my former colleagues from the Ministry of Works and Transport, but he is now functioning as an accident reconstruction specialist. And I'm going to ask Mr. Carl Cupid to unmute his mic and share his screen.
Okay.
Okay, your mic is unmuted. I'm not seeing your screen as yet.
Yeah, my screen is there. It's not, let me just get it to full screen. Full screen?
It's full, but not shared.
I am seeing, oh, sorry. Let me just go back a bit then.
Okay.
Share screen has gone. Could you just give me a share screen backup, please?
You want me to share mine?
Well, yes, I am seeing my script, my presentation, but I'm not seeing the.
Okay. Let me share mine.
The controls.
Yeah, let me share mine.
I think I forgot to press the share screen button.
Okay.
That is what
No
happened.
problem.
Okay. Okay. Well.
Hold on a second. You seeing it?
Yes, I'm seeing something up in the corner here. That is my presentation, but.
As your presentation, I'm sharing it.
Okay, good. I am seeing my presentation well, but the share screen, I think I did not.
Okay, no
press
problem.
The share screen.
We'll work it in tandem. You just let me know when to change the slide.
I could change the slide. It's the share screen that is not there with me. I don't know if you are seeing me.
Well, I have my screen up with your slide, so you just tell me when you want the slide changed.
Oh, okay. So I could go ahead now then.
Go ahead.
Good. Thank you very much, Dr. Townsend. Now, my topic is the effects of accident investigation on road safety in the Caribbean. I mentioned in the Caribbean because I've done several high-profile cases, matters in some of the some of the territories. High profile because they were fatal. Well, in one case, it was a high profile person, right? So now the accident investigation in general is the application of relevant branches of science and engineering to determine causes of accidents. This topic deals specifically with ground vehicles on the roads and available paths, which is the available path could be the sidewalk or shoulder. Now, some aspect of industrial and earth moving machines would be addressed, time permitting, right? So now there are two main areas of accident investigation. There are several others, but two main. There are accident causation and accident reconstruction. We're talking about motor vehicle accidents here. Now, accident causation is concerned with predisposing circumstances. Example, a couple had a heated argument and the husband who was driving, he became upset to such an extent that he lost control of the car, which crashed into another vehicle. Another example is a drunken driver. He could not control her vehicle. She could not control her vehicle and caused a crash. Accident reconstruction is a sort of a rare profession in the Caribbean, right? But it needs to become prominent in the area of reporting accident investigation. The three items that contribute to the occurrence of accidents are: one, the human factor; two, equipment factor; and three, the environmental factors. Now, if one factor is missing, in other words, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, you cannot solve the problem of how the accident happened. I must mention that accident causation means why. It answers the question why accidents happen. So I touched on that already. But accident reconstruction answers the question how accidents happen. Okay. So there are permanent and temporary factors that contribute to accident, right? There's no one item that would cause an accident. It's a combination of the three items that you see that I mentioned earlier: human, equipment in this case is the vehicle, and the environmental factors, which include the road. Here's where the science comes in. One must know the condition of the road, like coefficient of friction, the grade, which is the tangent of the slope of the road in degrees. The tangent, for those of you who know trigonometry, it is very important. Then there's something called drag factor. Drag factor is really a combination of the grade, that is the tangent of the slope of the road, and the coefficient of friction. There's super elevation also. If you recall, if you can remember in your mind, the cycle track, you would notice on the corners, the cycle track is, the super elevation is high, but on the straight, it's a bit flatter, right? I want to talk about witness statements versus damage configuration. This is a big, it's something that needs to be addressed in the insurance industry and the people who report on accidents or accident investigation. A report consisting mainly of statements from independent witnesses is simply a report of an accident. There's a big difference between a report of an accident and a report of an accident investigation. The moment you mention investigation, you're talking about measurements. And this is what the investigators ought to be doing, right? The damage configuration of vehicles caused by crashes tells the true story of the collision. That's the evidence that the investigators should be using. How the damage looks, the shape, etc. and what part of the vehicle is involved. Accident investigators should not use statements of witnesses to form their conclusion, but they may agree with them based on the investigator's own assessment and calculations and so on. Accurate measurements tell no lies, and they could prove if and when witnesses are not telling the truth. This next subtopic, Introduction to Vehicle Deformatics, is very dear to me because the word deformatics was coined by me since 2002. So I would give you the definition of vehicle deformatics. It is also called collision deformatics. It is the visual analysis of vehicle deformations that assist investigators to determine the pre and post collision trajectories of vehicles involved in crashes. It is an adequate procedure minus computerization, minus the computerized equipment that I have never used. I know of them very well, to determine the liability. The procedure was developed early in my practice after receiving assignments for accidents that occurred several years earlier. That's when the parties want to beat the statute barred provision, right? So good photography became very important at that time. Good photographs that can show exactly what is happening, what has happened in an accident, how the scratches look, how the dents, etc., how they look, the direction, the face, and so on. In this regard, managers must be careful with investigators who only use statements of witnesses and who always try to favor, who always try to favor the company that hired them to form conclusions in liability. It is always a dangerous practice, especially if matters have to go to court, right? We have to be careful with that. I would like to know if you all are seeing the example, the photograph there. Could somebody tell me whether you see? Oh, good. I think
Yes, you see it.
good. Okay. I want everybody to look carefully at this vehicle. It looks so mangled that one would think that they can't tell what really went on with that accident. Just look at the left side of the vehicle and you would notice that the headlamp is still intact. And on the right side of the vehicle, it's all mangled. So you know that that is the side of the vehicle that crashed into something else, right? Or another vehicle. This is the same example. This is the second vehicle, V2, that that V1 crashed into. So we go back to number one, look at the right side, and we go back to number two now, and you see that the left side of this vehicle was hit by the other one, right? By the bluish one. This is what could have happened. We could determine the exact angle between these vehicles when we decide to take measurements and so on, right? So this is what actually happened in this vehicle. The vehicles are being driven from left to right, same direction, and the black one, well, it looks blue in the other slide. That black one is the one that went into, if you notice, the right side, the right corner went into the left side of the white one. Look at it again, and you see how the door is distorted and the front of the vehicle slightly distorted because of that impact there. So let's go to number two, example number two. If you look carefully, again, the right side of this vehicle, the front right. If I did say right side with the example two, I mean the right side of the front. So it's the same kind of, not the same kind of damage, but it's the same side. It's the right side of this front right of this vehicle that has the damage. You notice that on the left side, the light is still there. This one crashed into this vehicle here, and it went straight under the vehicle with the aerodynamic shape of the front of the vehicle. It went under this vehicle and pushed the rear panel forward. I don't need a witness to tell me that that is what happened. The witness, in fact, I don't even use witnesses. I don't use witness statements at all. This is the kind of thing that is necessary for insurers to know. And I think sometimes too much of money is spent on witness statements, you know, because it's just another file that goes there. It's similar to what the police presents anyhow as a accident. It's just an accident report. It's not a report of an accident investigation. That is what the police and the other people present. It's I do accident investigation, and I write a report of an accident investigation. It's a big, big difference. Now, some motorists who rear-ended another vehicle often tried to blame overtaking. Now, the two images that you're seeing on the road there, the white one is the, let me go back a bit and show you. Right, this is the one in which the black one rear-ended, and this is the result. Now, this situation could never occur because of an overtaking, because another vehicle overtook it. The overtaking might have happened long before, if it did happen at all, right? Because some people say what they want people to hear to try to let them off the hook. If, in fact, there was overtaking, it meant that the white vehicle was already ahead. It had cleared the other vehicle, and therefore, any overtaking might have been the one behind tried to overtake and run into it, but it may not have been that case. Maybe the driver of that black vehicle fell asleep or something like that. He wasn't paying attention, because in driving, even if someone tries to overtake another, like I am a driver, I can see on my left side, I can see on my right, I can see ahead of me, and my rearview mirror is there. I can see all around. So a driver must see when a vehicle is in the process of overtaking him. And he does not have to maintain the speed to sort of carry up that person who is trying to overtake him. But he has to allow that driver to complete the overtaking process. And then the driver behind now, who was just overtaken, he has to maintain a safe distance behind that white vehicle. And that is where a lot of people try to say that somebody overtook me, so I ran into them. It can't happen that way. You know, I remember not too long ago, someone told me that he was driving on the highway, and on that highway, a truck overtook him, and he said, you know, when trucks overtake you, what happens? You know, they start to, they become slower as they're going up the hill. So I ran into him. That is giving yourself away there. You cannot run into a vehicle because it's in front of you unless you did something wrong. Okay, right. So that's good for that example. No witnesses could do better than what the damage tells. Example 3, vehicles traveling parallel to each other during contact. That is called a side swipe. If you can see, if the listeners and viewers can see the consistency around the arch of this fender. This is a front fender. The removal of paint from that arch is fairly consistent. That means that the other vehicle, or if it's an object, but it was a vehicle in this case, the other vehicle was driving parallel to this one when that happened. Otherwise, there might have been a dent somewhere else on the fender. You know, overtaking is always misconstrued somehow. So this is where you need to know some geometry. the first thing you one learns in geometry is a line. So we have two parallel lines, and you could use that. The geometric terms must be used to describe damage. For example, perpendicular, one drove perpendicular or obliquely, etc. Right? And there are ways and means for calculating the what you call the angle of approach and so on. This image that you're seeing is very, very important. And the principal direction of force and delta V. I've written here homicide stage accident. It doesn't have to be, but I wrote it there so that I can explain what can happen. The principal direction of force is like the resultant of all the smaller forces come together, and you get a resultant of the direction of the force. Yeah, PDOF in degrees. Okay. Now, the vehicle has two occupants in the rear, on the rear seat, right? So the principal direction of force, the force is directed to the one on the left, but the one on the right, it's not passing through him. So in this case, this one on the left, the occupant on the left, may be the one subjected to very serious damage if the force is sufficiently high to cause that, because loose objects in a vehicle go towards the opposite to the principal direction of force. So this guy on the left would go towards the direction opposite to what they to the PDOF. Now the person on the right, seated on the right in the rear, he may not, should not in fact receive the kind of injury that the one on the left would have received. And this year, if for some reason the one on the right should die, let us assume he's found dead in the accident, on the accident scene, or a lot of injuries that that should not have been attributed to him. That is another case that you're dealing with. You're dealing with perhaps homicide. That guy on the right could have been killed elsewhere and put in the car, and then the accident could have been staged. That is why this is the importance of accident investigation. This is true accident investigation, right? A witness might be able to tell you, look, I saw somebody sitting here and somebody sitting there and so on, but you need to be able to calculate and determine the PDOF, the principal direction of force, okay? Now, the delta V, it's in the same direction as the PDOF. I wouldn't deal with it now. All I would say is that the delta V is the change in the velocity of the occupant compartment of a vehicle during the collision phase of an accident. You can picture a vehicle hitting a wall or another vehicle, and the front starts to receive crush. So a new velocity for the occupant compartment is realized, okay? So delta V happens to be the accident severity, and the units of accident severity, delta V, is in velocity terms, velocity kilometers per hour, miles per hour, and so on. It is not the speed of the vehicle. Likewise, the angle, the PDOF is not the angle of approach of the other vehicle, of the opposing vehicle, but it is related to it somewhat, but it is not the angle of approach, right? Let me go to the other slide. Now, what I would like investigators to do, they have to, and the insurance company, they have to invest in educating themselves in order to determine how accidents happen. Because when accidents happen, if you don't get the good reports, if you don't have the information to tell you how and why accidents happen, the insurers would not know. They ought to know what to tell the people who they sell insurance to, how to behave on the road and so on and so forth. But because of the kind of reports sent to them, they don't get that information. They don't know how accidents happen. All they know is that 2 vehicles came together, or 3 or 4, and so on. So they need to invest in, you could purchase some books. I mean, I bought this one online, An Engineer in the Courtroom. These 4 books there, Society of Automotive Engineers, 4 sets of handbooks with anything you want to find on a vehicle, whether it's accidents, etc., and so on. And the other one on top, I bought that one from myself. I'm not sure what's happening here. Good. Now, insurance cover of earth moving and industrial machines. Trucks. Take a truck. Someone who is going into the trucking business should not just walk into a store and say, I want a truck, just like that. You have to know what you're going to be using the truck for. For example, you may see 2 trucks looking similar, same size and everything, but one might have been designed and constructed and built to carry light load like foam and so on. And the driver, someone might buy that truck that was designed to carry foam or some light material and put heavy stuff on it like gravel and so on and so forth, aggregate and that kind of thing, and heavy materials. Insurers must be careful with that, because you must, when you're insuring a truck, you must ask the owner or the driver, what is the application for this truck? You have to know it, because you may insure it for carrying a light load, but the driver decides he wants to carry a heavy load on the same truck, and when it breaks down, he wants to lay a claim on you. The same thing happens with tractors. Some tractors, the tracks are designed for some kind of a level of flotation or low ground pressure. And there are others that the bulldozers type that rip mountains apart and so on and so forth. The tracks are designed differently. So when you, for the insurer to insure this tractor, he must know what application it is going to be placed on. The same thing goes for pumps. The environment in which the pumps would be used and so on. The same thing goes for dredgers. If there's an amphibious dredger, it doesn't make sense buying an amphibious dredger and it sits on the riverbank and the swamp is there and the slush is there and it's not going in. As long as you can have a piece of equipment on the side of on the riverbank or wherever it is, or around a pond, you don't need an amphibious dredger to do that. Because I've had some experience with amphibious dredgers in the Ministry of Works where my assessment told me that the unit was the wrong unit for the application, because the tracks of those amphibious dredgers, each member was a hollow section that aided in the flotation of the machine. And if you put that kind of track on hard surfaces where there's a lot of boulders, etc., the tracks get damaged and they may even be punctured, and it decreases the flotation, the ability of the dredger to float. So that is the kind of experience. I'm saying this because many people buy equipment and very often they don't know what, they have no idea what service they're going to be put it into, and they have it insured, and the insurance company sells the insurance to them, not knowing what use these pieces of equipment would be placed in, right? This is a very important aspect of accident reconstruction. A picture tells 1,000 words. The after accident situation map that you are seeing here, it is the labeling is important so that when your technician, like in the insurance companies, we have these people they call, what they call them, claims technician, and the managers too. When they look at this, it could tell you the entire story, rather than some people writing 2-3 pages to describe an accident scene. That doesn't make sense. This is absolutely necessary in accident reconstruction. You must have good maps, right? Now, before I go into the certification thing, I want to mention that I have seen the fire brigade, fire people washing down roads, washing down the accident sites after an accident before photographs could be taken. That is a bad practice. If they want to wash it down and nobody else is there, like if they get there before the police, that's the fire department, I'm telling them that they must take as many photographs, especially if no cameras are around. You need to not to wash away the evidence. Where the debris splashes, the splash of debris is important so that an investigator can see how they splash. The splash tells you directions in which vehicles might have been traveling and so on and so forth. Let me see if I could mention something else here, right? About the police. A quick thing about the police.
Yeah, Carl, we need to close up in about 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay. What I just want to say is that I think the police should place their reports online. I think that could be done tomorrow morning, because sometimes you go to the police, you want a police report. I call it a police report. I'm not calling it a police accident report. Remember what I said earlier. So they need to put that online so that it could be purchased by whoever would like to have it, right? And let me just talk about the certification in the Caribbean vocational qualification, CVQ. This is my recommendation that investigators should be at this level, you know. The managers should be at the executive level also that is level 5 of the CVQ, the Caribbean, what it's called, the Caribbean vocational qualification. Good. So I want to thank the Department of Civil Engineering and Civil and Environmental Engineering for having me here. And I hope that the information given would be well received and take note of, so that some actions could be taken in these regards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cupid, for that introduction to the science of accident reconstruction. And I'm sure there are many questions in the chat for you later on. I am now going to move right into the role of the Road Safety NGO in Safer Roads. And I'm going to introduce a speaker who should be no stranger to us, because she has been on the forefront of ensuring that we arrive alive. I'm going to ask Sharon Ingerfield to share her screen and unmute her mic. Here's Mrs. Ingerfield.
Good morning, Trevor. Thank you, everyone, at the UE, and particularly your department, Dr. Townsend, for inviting Arrive Alive to partake in this very important road safety webinar. So this morning, Arrive Alive is going to discuss with you the role of NGOs in road safety. So Arrive Alive is a non-governmental organization funded only by private and business donations. We are a member of the Global Alliance of Road Safety NGOs, which was formed by the United Nations. They have a website and a Facebook page, very, very good information, lots of seminars on their page. So it would be very good for anyone who's interested in road safety to go up on the Global Alliance website. So our mission is to advocate for better road safety management systems and to encourage all these stakeholders to get together and communicate and to trust and to build a better interagency collaboration and intervention to ensure that at the end of the day, we save lives and we improve lifestyles. We want everyone to go to work and to come back in one piece. So our vision is keeping families together. We adopted the Sweden vision, 0 injuries and 0 fatalities, because every single life matters. Our role, we advocate for better road safety management systems. We support the safe systems approach, which we will get into. Brent, Batson has shared some of that safe systems approach, and so has Dandy Pigot. Our role is also to educate all the stakeholders, including, of course, road users. Our knowledge base. So at the beginning, when Mr. Batson was the president of Arrive Alive, I visited the United Nations Global Meeting of Road Safety NGOs in March 2011. And thereafter, we've attended many workshops by the United Nations, the Global Road Safety NGO, and the International Road Federation. If I can't attend, we do virtual webinars and presentations, and we send some of our volunteers. The landscape, well, Brent shared a lot of statistical information, so I won't go into that. But as you can see, thank goodness, with more collaboration in the last, I would say, 11 years, we've had a downward trend of fatal road traffic crashes as well as fatalities as a result of collaboration and lots of interventions by the Ministry of Works and Transport with regards policies and new laws, and providing the TTPS with the tools they need to do their job of enforcement, like the speed guns, the breathalyzer units, and most recently the tint meters. So our approach is the 5 pillars of road safety. Again, Brent and Andy went into some of this. Arrive Alive's role is to continue to encourage the development of an international road safety council, our own local arm, the National Road Safety Council, to ensure that we have a management system in place with excellent legislation, process, policy to ensure that we can achieve our goal at the end of the day. Safer roads, very, very important to have road safety audits, independent road safety audits, to ensure that our roads are safe and the road safety furniture is installed as per international standards, and that includes utility poles that you often hear me talking about with regards to those media interviews. We want to make sure that our pedestrian walkovers as well as our pedestrian crosswalks at schools have guardrails, they're well lit, they're well painted. Safer vehicles, of course, the importation of safer vehicles, electric cars, electric buses, especially for that first and last mile to school and to work as well as to home. This will include a national transportation policy that is critical, especially at this time. Safer road users, as Adandi mentioned, changing behavior, very, very important. We need to ensure that we have a proper driver education and training program so that prior to the privilege of being allowed to drive on the nation's roads, we're educating our drivers and we're closing all gaps of what we call in Trinidad and Tobago buying our license. It is critical that we have proper driver training because it is very sad that we have to enforce laws on drivers that really are, in some cases, illiterate, cannot read and write, and don't have a clue with regards to the highway code and the rules of the road. Emergency response, I'm glad to see that we're now incorporating more training for our emergency personnel. Critical that our fire officers, that our ambulance personnel, and our ambulances are well equipped. And I would love to see proper trauma centers at our hospitals with trauma doctors that can really and truly save lives of those who come in that are injured. So the road safety management system, this is just an example of how the lead agency will work. Very, very important that the Ministry of Works and Transport takes it on board. We would like to see this happen in 2020. So it's a multi-sectoral, multidisciplinary approach to build the trust and communication. So for instance, when WASA is digging up a road, there's much more communication, so we don't have gridlock traffic. When electricity Poles are being installed that the ministry is auditing TNTech to ensure they're built towards standard. The standard in some of the European countries as well as in North America is 35 kilometers an hour when you have concrete electricity poles too close to traffic. So that's just an example of what we want to see happen and what we want to see communicated across the board with regards to this lead council. The audit of the roads and furniture and national transportation policy, very, very important, particularly this time when page drivers, the topic is being discussed with regards to recent kidnappings. And we need to see it include non-motorized transportation, which means more cycling, more walking, more running, with regards particularly pedestrians who are both vulnerable road users. Coordination of a national road safety policy. I'm glad to see Adande mentioned the cabinet approved road safety plan. Arrival Live would love to get a copy of that. I'm sure the University of West Indies would also love to get a copy of that. And I think that's where we build trust. So Arrival Live is confident that the ministry is listening and going forward and not just being a troubleshooter. So ongoing data-driven monitoring and evaluation, very, very important that the data provided by the TTPS is accurate. Arrival Live cross-references all our data with newspaper articles, and we tried very hard to interact with the Ministry of Health to ensure the data is coming to us in an honest, transparent manner. So these are the stakeholders, the direct stakeholders of road safety and the Road Safety, National Road Safety Council, the stakeholders that would sit with the National Road Safety Council. As you can see, there are many, many stakeholders from the media, very, very important, to civil society, being the chambers of commerce and the regional health authorities who should be given better funding and making them accountable to ensure that the roads that they are in charge of are well maintained, the pavements, the road safety furniture is installed properly. Those regional authorities need to get much more involved. The Ministry of Health, well, road accidents come under the Ministry of Health, road collisions, I should say, come under the Ministry of Health. So very, very important that they stay involved. And of course, UE under the professionals with regards engineering, civil engineering, road engineers, road safety, managers in the insurance companies, and all road users. So some of the things that Arrival Live do on a day-to-day basis, we facilitate meetings between the cycling fraternity and the Ministry of Transport. This is a meeting we had at BHP a couple of years ago when we had a few of the cyclists killed on the nation's roads to really discuss improving infrastructure to make cycling safe in Trinidad and Tobago. We really see an opportunity with regards to this, especially with the need to diversify our economy. We see cycling and walking being really part of ecotourism, and we would like to see safer cycling routes like we have in Chagaramas within the hills, very safe cycling routes there with a lot of the mountain bikes. We would like to see this on the main ridge, for instance, and we see this reduction of carbon emissions, introduction of electric cars and buses to include a national transportation plan, lower risk because you have less traffic, less gridlock on the roads, and lower deaths, and better health benefits. As you know, we have a serious problem with diabetes and heart disease in Trinidad. So this encouragement of cycling and walking will improve our health across the board. Economic growth. I mean, we meet a lot of these eco-tourists before COVID who come here and are ready with our birds, etc. We see walking tracks, throughout the islands, really encouraging that form of tourism. So we really do need to transform the way we see transport in the Caribbean to include cycling and pedestrian activities like they have done in the rest of the world, especially during COVID. Driver rehabilitation classes. In 2013, the magistrate court started to send DUI offenders, drinking, and driving offenders to arrive alive, and we had to come up with a course. So with the partnership of the TTPS, we developed this road safety rehabilitation course, and we have expanded it over the years. And most recently, we have signed a memorandum of understanding with the Ministry of Works and Transport to rehabilitate adult behavior, adult driver behavior. So this would include anger management, road rage, driving impaired, driving distracted, roundabouts, road signs, lots of good stuff. As you know, it's extremely hard to change adult behavior. So again, we need to improve on that novice driver education and training. Arrive Alive has already had 3,850 driver offenders come through these classes up until I think we last checked in December of this year. So we hope to see a continued improvement of driver behavior on our roads. And we invite anybody who wants to come to register with us. We have a website, a Facebook page, or you could contact our Arrive Alive office if you would like to be proactive to do this course. We do school tours. Again, we partner with the wardens under the Ministry of Works and Transport and the police to go into the schools and do school tours. And that would include from toddler right the way up to university level. We've been to UE doing sober zones as well. So it's all about pedestrian road safety, cycling road safety, and then adult behavior before you learn to drive and before you get the driver's permit. We go into the schools with breathalyzers, the police come in with their speed guns, and we do a lot of community work by coordinating with the ministry as well as with the police. Again, you see us here with the younger students, and we really get a lot of benefit from going out there. It really is a great it's really a shame that the COVID has stopped us from doing these kinds of interactions within the schools, but it's something that we really do enjoy doing. We also started the Road Safety Awards in 2015. Arrive Alive saw the benefit of trying to keep the highway division that Brent sits on, motivated, the officers motivated to do their job and encouraged them to continue to live up to their responsibility of good police. And it's not just about giving tickets, but about really educating drivers in some of the roadblocks that they have. So thank God for the sponsorship of BHP Trinidad and Tobago. We give plaques to road safety engineers who have done a good job and have championed and are passionate about road safety, as well as the police officers, the wardens, fire officers, ambulance personnel, all who go out there every day and in some cases are traumatized by what they see on the roads with regards to the carnage. We also have a World Day of Remembrance for road traffic victims. Again, this is Adrian Winters, who's in charge of the Traffic Enforcement Center at the Ministry of Works and Transport in the center. He is in charge of ensuring that the demerit point system and those warnings are given out to drivers. He works very closely with the Transport Commissioner. We invite the ministry as well as the TTPS, the fire, the ambulance, and a lot of insurance companies, some of the optometrist companies like Ferreira Optical or Optometrist Today to all come out to again educate the drivers on road safety. So we have booths, the families come out, we try to do some victim support, stay in touch with the families to show them that we care, put them in touch with the Ministry of Social Services and Families to obtain their grants, and we do a walk and ride around the savannah. The other thing that we follow is United Nations Global Road Safety Week. This year, the date for that has already been announced for 2021. The National Road Safety Week is the 17th of May to the 21st. And their theme is speed and speed management. So again, Arrive Alive champions this particular week by inviting the ministry and the TTPS, as well as other direct stakeholders to come out with us and make a statement, policy, decision on speed, as we know that speed has been reduced in a lot of the residential neighborhoods and around schools, especially where there's a lot of pedestrian and cyclist traffic, motorcycle traffic. to ensure that we protect these vulnerable road users who have a right, a lawful right to our nation's roads. So we come out every year, we partner with the different stakeholders, and we do some road safety awareness. We also champion and we directly get involved with ensuring that the pedestrian crossings around the schools that we visit are upgraded. We would like to see more guardrails to ensure that the pedestrians are going to these pedestrian crossings, making sure that they're well painted and lit. Adandi has been great, and we want to see an ongoing maintenance. We would like to see a budget being provided for recurrent expenditure where this road safety maintenance is required all through our 2 islands, Trinidad and Tobago. Again, this is Arrive Alive, giving out groceries to the families who are connected with us, who have lost breadwinners and who are in dire need of assistance. So we support the Ministry of Social Services and families with regards giving out groceries as well as laptops and tablets. We're in touch with the schools. You know, if the schools need a printer, we try to do some fundraising to get printers. But we try to focus on our families because there's so many families that have lost breadwinners. And we are in direct contact to ensure that they have electricity in their homes, that they have internet connection. If they don't have internet connection, we try to provide it, particularly during this time when so many children are falling through the gaps. So every stakeholder has a responsibility. Dandy is really very correct when he says that the road users have a responsibility, but we all have a responsibility too as stakeholders to ensure that we are all doing our job to ensure that lives are saved every year. So once again, we thank you for inviting Arrive Alive to today's webinar, especially to Dr. Trevor Townsend and his team who put this presentation together and workshop webinar together. We really appreciate you recognizing the role of Arrive Alive. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Sharon, for that very informative presentation and really bringing us up to speed with the work Arrive Alive is doing. Before I turn on to the plenary session, we are going to be having a chance for a number of questions in the chat. We probably will not get to all of them, but here's the good news. And here's an interesting bit of news. We are going to be having a 3-day workshop on transportation issues from and here's the dates, May 17th to May 19th. And one of our sub-teams is going to be the question of road safety. So it dovetails exactly with the Road Safety Awareness Week, Sharon. And I'm hoping that we can complement each other in that regard because we really want to use this 3-day symposium to articulate where we are, to plan an agenda for moving forward, and to bring all the stakeholders inside of that thrust to get our agenda moving towards that zero death plan, so that our transportation symposium, which has a road safety sub-team, there are about 5 sub-themes, of which one of which is road safety, is the same time. So that I'm hoping that we can sort of work together. We're gonna have to see how we can work that out because they're gonna be busy that week, but we want you to be in that whole workshop as well, because it's an opportunity to spread the word, to spread the education. And we're gonna talk a little bit more about that. Great to have you here. And the last thing I want to talk before I turn over to the questions is that National Road Safety Council, yes, UWE is involved through this engineering professional stuff, but I think that UWE should be involved as an institution because it's not just engineering, it's marketing and communications, it's social sciences, a whole number of areas impact on road safety. So if you think about how we can bring UWE in as an institution, invite you to participate, I'm sure that you're going to get positive response. Let me turn over to the question and answer periods, and we have a few minutes that we can use to do that. Some of you have posted your questions in the chat. If you have not yet done so, please do. But I'm going to ask one of our moderators, one of our postgrad students, Catherine Agong, to share screen and at least share video, unmute, and start to pose the questions to the panelists that have been posed in the chat. Keep posting your questions in the chat as well. So Catherine, over to you. You need to unmute your mic. Still not hearing you. Nope, not hearing you still. All right, well, Catherine, what I would suggest you do is to close the video, come out and come back into the session and see if that will do it. In the meantime, I will start some questions, but I have some questions to my colleagues here. And I guess I tend to be a little provocative, but really and truly, I want to ask anybody can answer this question, because we're looking at the seatbelt legislation, and we see that seatbelt legislation is one of the key things that save lives. When the legislation was brought into play, a number of persons were exempted from using seatbelts, one of whom is the Tobago police service members in police cars. Has that been changed, or if not, why not? I don't know if anybody wants to answer that question, because I think that policemen wearing seatbelts would be a great example to the rest of the population.
Well, I think I have to answer it, Professor. So it has not changed. We encourage it though. In fact, when the drivers go through the police driving school, it is, all they can do is recommend it, because it's not in a driving policy per se as mandatory for the officers. What we show them is that they're more likely to be killed in a crash than by a bullet any day, you know? So it's something we're working on. And in fact, there's a team putting together a driving standard that will be policy. But I think in the end, the psychology of the officers responding, where they truly believe that for some reason, that jumping out with his firearm is, I mean, it's a tough cultural battle. That's what I'll say. It's a cultural thing, but it's definitely something we are addressing. You have to lead by example, you know, and it starts with all of us. So I agree with you, and it's something we are working on, definitely.
Yeah, Brent, I was unfortunate. There was an unfortunate accident a couple of years ago, Christmas Day, I think, on Solution Road, Deformatics, and at least one police officer was either died or was badly injured when a police car crashed in hot pursuit. And I believe a seatbelt there would have saved a life. So I'm glad to hear that you continue to push it. Catherine, are you back in now with your mic?
Can you hear me?
I'll be hearing you loud and clear, so over to you.
Okay, good, excellent. Right, so the first question I have here was for Sergeant Batson. What do you think is or was the measure which was the most successful in reducing the road fatalities in the last few years?
I think it was definitely a combination approach where we saw the first, I would say, significant reductions. It commenced actually with the DUI legislation, followed by the implementation of it. And then, of course, we started to see that reduction together with the, I don't know if everybody can remember, if you could go back now to the 2010, 2009, you know, Arrival Life started to push a lot more accountability and education through full press ads and trying to push education and bring road traffic safety to the front burner as a socioeconomic issue. I think that's really where we started to see major impacts. That together with, of course, the introduction of the speed guns, definitely for speed management. And of the deterrence in fines, when they started to raise the fines, those could remember, it used to be like $200 for a speeding ticket. seatbelt ticket was $200. It increased to $1,000. So we started to see that those little things used to have a major effect. But I don't think I can say, I think it's a combination approach with regards to where we've seen the intervention start to make a difference. And we also, if some persons may remember, when the Ministry of Works and Transport installed the guardrails and the cable barriers, we started to see almost 100% reduction in crossover collisions, which would result in multiple fatal incidents. You know, when these cars crossed the highway, it was anywhere ranging between 3 persons to 6 people dying in one accident. So that engineering intervention definitely helped a lot as well.
Okay, thank you for that. From this point forward, in the interest of time, I'm going to be paraphrasing the questions that have come through so that we really to the point. The next question is for you as well, Sergeant Batson. What is the policy with regards to cell phone use by police officers whilst driving?
Right. So the law gives a clear exemption, legal exemption, for police officers to use phones while they're driving. There are 2 reasons for that. I just want to emphasize. One is that alternative form of communication, especially, I'm not making excuses, but this is fact because it's happened to me as well on the job, whereby certain confidential information is not transmitted through the wireless set, but is actually, you're contacted by the command center on your phone because they don't want something broadcasted. So therefore they call you on the phone, and that's where the exemption comes from. We try to, of course, in their training, they advise to minimize its use, but it's definitely something that is dynamic because WhatsApp and all this social media has now infiltrated the whole issue. But that's the policy. They have the legal exemption.
For Adande now, what considerations are being given for child restraints for babies in taxis? Is the question.
I think the police may be able to help. Yeah. We know it's a challenge on this end. Taxis, we know there are some single parents and who may not be, it appears though it's not practical to actually have it, but we have to be a little bit mindful when we're making some of these laws. Our culture is so much different from other jurisdictions, or the type of taxis that we have. We have a lot of route type taxis where you're actually sharing taxis. So it is a little bit challenging on that. And I know the TTPS do not issue tickets with respect to that. I think, well, the child and the passenger, the mother and the child, or the father and the child has to be in the back seat when that situation takes place. But we haven't gone further after we brought in the law of actually putting things in place for taxis and passengers or commuters with babies. But I don't know if the police could assist me a little bit with respect to answering that question.
Sure. To the person that asked the question, internationally, usually burden is not put on the owner of the taxi for any public service vehicle. Usually you'd have to request, that's what the person would have to supply it. If you think, if a taxi driver was to pick up a passenger with 3 kids, that's what, three child seats, that would take up the entire trunk. I mean, if you had to pick up persons with groceries and stuff like that. So it puts the burden on the person traveling with the taxi. The law exempts public service vehicles clearly under 43 from that, from being charged with that offense. We understand the dynamic with regards to the element of risk, which doesn't minimize it in the taxi per se. But hence the reason why the taxi driver usually is considered a more a better trained person with regards to requirements to even get the taxi badge to try and minimize that. But you are correct, it does not apply to the taxi drivers. I just will state that.
Let me help you here with some anecdote. 35 years ago, when my son was born, he couldn't, in Evanston, we could not leave the hospital with him by law unless we had a child seat. So even if you were taking a cab, the hospital will not allow us to leave with him unless we had a child seat.
Sure. Yeah.
But the onus is on the parent as part of traveling with your child.
Yes.
To have a child seat. So your child can occupy a legal seat in the taxi, pay for it.
Yep, correct.
And that is how you keep your child safe. You do not keep your child safe in your arms, even in the back of a taxi.
No, agreed.
Child, so I'm sure you can show that child will fly out of your arms, and I'm sure Mr. Cupid will show that as well. Good question.
Okay, for Mr. Piggott and and Sergeant Batson, sorry, in what way are warnings issued to motorists? How are these warnings tracked or monitored and followed up to ensure compliance or improvement? And I'm assuming warnings are from maybe police on the roads to persons who might have not complied with the laws. So either of you could cover that.
You want me to take that, Dandy?
Yeah, most definitely. That's straight up.
Yeah. So, sure. All right. So, folks, the benefit of the system now with this U-turn system and the devices. Remember, what we're trying to build in is something called accountable discretion. The officer, having viewed, decides to, okay, I'll give you a warning instead of issuing you a ticket or a fixed penalty notice. And the warning is digitally recorded against our driver's permit number. Now, you can imagine the benefit. So we could call the warning a bly, right? And however, if another law enforcement officer stops the same motorist a couple days or even, heck, it could be minutes later, driving on his shoulder again, and is going to give him a ticket or enters his permit number, he will say he's been warned for that offense or another offense. So it allows a quick reference to the antecedent behavior of that motorist, and then help influence the decision making of the officer right there and then. The warnings do not, as you all know, carry any penalty, fine, or anything like that. But it just helps the law enforcement officer decide whether or not this person actually does genuinely deserve a opportunity or a warning, or from what we see on his record here, we think we need to assume that ticket because he seems to be a habitual occurrence with this risky behavior.
Thanks for that. Dr. Townsend, I know it's 12 o'clock. Should we continue with the questions?
Yes, you can continue for a couple of minutes because we started a little late.
Okay, sure. This question, why have keep left except when overtaken signs being removed from the east-west corridor? Has any study been done to inform this? And is a direct, indirect, is this an indirect, forgive me, is this a direct or indirect contributor to accidents and reckless endangerment of life and property? So I guess that's for Adande.
Yeah, the signs were not removed as a maintenance issue to replace them when they were damaged from vehicle accidents and stuff like that. So we actually do have a program to replace those signs. It's still the wish of the traffic management branch and also the TTPS to have that scenario continued. We have some challenges. However, with respect to on the east-west corridor, you have a lot of intersections, at-grade intersections, I should say. As such, anytime a motorist has to make a right turn when they make it to an intersection, they will have to be in the right lane. As such, it's very difficult to enforce, or reasonably enforce, I should say, because motorists wishing to make a right turn at a particular intersection, you wouldn't want them to be weaving at a very short distance to that intersection by keeping left unless overtaken. So you have some challenges with respect to that. Until we fully remove some of those at-grade intersections on the east-west corridor, that policy can be fully endorsed. However, on the north-south corridor, I think more should be done to keep that that policy going.
Okay, thank you so much. So the next question is for Sergeant Batson. Why are police not ticketing drivers who drive in the right lane, I guess that's the offside lane on the highway, when they're not overtaken?
Okay, what I would say is that I can't say that they're not being ticketed because I've seen the offense come up on the system. I think the question is, why isn't it done consistently? I think the challenge sometimes, and I'm talking about the real application of enforcing this, is that when you have the entire right lane, I mean, it's like constant as you move them out. As you look in your rearview mirror, they've gone back into the right lane. So I really believe I support the other question the other person asked was, I think more signage to remind motorists of the importance of keeping left and let slow moving traffic occupy the inside and the extreme left lane along those highways are really, really important. And I defer to Mr. Piggott if you could assist in placing back a lot of those signs, not just on the Eastern Main Road, but as well as in the highways as well, to remind motorists really, because we a lot of times when we stop them, they tell us things like, oh, I'm driving 100, so I'm not blocking anybody past me, they're breaking the speed limits, and why are you not dealing with them every day? Trust me, you know, so it is a challenge. We are trying to deal with it, but I think we need some assistance with some signage to remind them.
And I think it would be really
Have my
good for
support.
some public education to be launched where that is concerned as well. It seems as though, like you said, some people don't have a clue that it's not right to do that. Okay, next question is
That's the
about.
last question, Catherine.
That was the last question?
One more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
You go ahead, last question.
Oh, last question. All right. So there was a project to have vehicles with RFID plates many years ago. What has become of that project?
I think Dande could speak to that. And Dande, you want to handle it?
Yeah, it is a very live situation right now. We actually have a meeting right after this about that same scenario. The government of Trinidad and Tobago is at present in negotiations with the preferred bidder for that. And I cannot speak too much about it right now because it is live. We have not signed any agreements or anything, but the project is on the table. And we hoping that someday soon we could actually have that implemented in Trinidad and Tobago, but it's not an easy task. It's not a simple project. We have been in negotiations for a very long time and we are reaching to the end of it. So hopefully once all goes well, we can see that RFID registration plate system implemented in Trinidad and Tobago.
So for those who don't know what RFID stands for, could you just give a brief explanation?
Radio frequency identification. You have a chip planted in the number plate of the vehicle, and it is accompanied with either handheld devices or gantries. When this number plate passes underneath, the vehicle with the number plate passes underneath the gantry, it gives a code to let you know that this number plate is for that vehicle and where that number plate is passing. The technology that we are using is not to track your vehicles. We can collect traffic data out of it. We can know where this number plate has passed. We will know that this number plate is for this vehicle. So in the event of a number plate being attached to another vehicle, a red flag will come up into the system. All the operator will see is 01 coding, 01, these binary numbers. They have no clue who that vehicle belongs to. The system will know, but it's not a matter of the TTPS or Ministry of Works tracking down vehicles from throughout the country so you will know where Dande is. He's in Toko right now. No, it's not that scenario. But it's to know that that plate is for that vehicle. And if it is not there, a red flag will come up.
Thank you so much, Mr. Piggott, for that explanation. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. We've had so many more questions to to go through, but we've run out of time. So I'll hand back over to Dr. Townsend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And before we wrap up, just a couple of quick things. Reminding everybody here, there are so many other questions and so many other issues that we wanted to ventilate, but just time didn't permit today. Issues such as the whole question of the design, the urban design of streets, questions about why it is that we have allowed our pedestrians in Port of Spain to be in devil take behind us because we remove the traffic signals, questions as to why we allow a higher speed limit around the Queen's Park Savannah, where you have schools and the zoo and all those things than on other roads, and all those kind of questions I know we could ask and answer, because I know in that last one, Arrive Alive and UWI protested against it, but the ministry found it was something that they wanted to do, and they did it anyway. That's 65 km/h speed limit around the Queen's Park Savannah. But I'm sure none of our panelists agree with it, but don't even bother to answer. Here's the thing. We are going to continue this discussion, as I said, from May 17th to 19th, which actually coincides with the same period for the road safety awareness. We are having a transportation symposium, and one of our themes is going to be road safety. Other themes are areas such as revitalizing towns, private sector participation in public service, in public transport, as a whole question of PH and taxi and maxi and TT rideshare and Uber and all those sort of things. Green transport solutions, looking at the questions of CNG, EVs. We already heard that there are some safety issues in terms of accidents and hybrids. The role of ITS in future mobility. We heard some ITS things about discussion. So it's going to be a major symposium, open to everybody here as well as people in the region. I just want to plug it. We are going to be making contact with you on it. But for now, I want to thank so much our panelists. This has been a most interesting discussion. I want to thank our participants who have stayed with us beyond their lunchtime. But I think that we have all learned tremendously about what has happened. We've done well. I think overall we can say that Trinidad and Tobago over the last 10 years, and we see what good planning could do. This is what happens when you have good planning. It had strategic objectives. It went through several political administrations. So it's not about the politics. It's about the public service being able to work through their program with assistance from the private sector, tremendous support from the private sector, and continuing to plan and process. And we are really hoping to continue the agenda down to that zero accident, zero fatality position. So I want to thank you all. Yes,
I wanted to just kind of, those who are still on to understand the importance of what you just said. A couple months ago, we partnered with one of your members from APET, Lacey, and we got some speed data of the priority bus route. This is with the police, yeah? And from that, when we saw the speed violations, it led to us commencing speed exercises. And it was a shock to the system on the PBR because it hadn't been done. But we didn't know that risk was so big until we saw the data. But through the partnership, through APET and so forth. And then it's gone so far now that the transit police, which is the major enforcers from the exercises, has now been given permission to purchase their own speed device. So that's that ripple effect of all of us working together. So I just want to, share that with you guys.
Well, thank you very much. And in fact, he is not only an APET representative, he's also one of our PhD students doing some studies on red light cameras and stuff, and one of our part-time lecturers here. So we need to work together, and I want to thank you for that plug as well. So we are, in fact, looking forward to this. I want to thank those who participated, the panelists, the moderators who kept the chat going and the instructions. I want to thank the Marketing and Communications Department of UWI. They have been tremendously supporting our whole range of webinars, and they are going to be the backbone of support for our transportation symposium. I want to thank the members of the media who are present, who are keeping this in the public eye. And really want to thank you all for making this a very interesting and very important discussion. We try to cover the gamut. We couldn't touch on everything, obviously, but we are going to be continuing this discussion fittingly during the week where road safety awareness is at the forefront during our transportation symposium. So that with that, turning back over to the Marketing and Communications, I want to thank you all for participating and look forward to seeing you again at our next webinar. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.